Looks like we're live here. I'm going to record this one as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. This is the private and uncensored show. I believe we're just going to be talking about initiation into the mysteries tonight, mainly, and looking at the occult, and something that I kind of dove into before I started the live stream, and I don't know how long I'm going to go live on the platforms and all of that. I'll just freestyle it. Um, One thing I want to preface everything with is by saying this: be open and be receptive to new ideas, new way of looking at things. We have to understand that everything within the construct of reality is fear-based, and that's what holds us back. If we are trying to manifest things in our lives that we want, whether that be love, money, career, whatever, or we're just trying to become better people and spiritually and consciously grow and evolve, then it's going to take a little bit of challenging our current belief systems. And that's just kind of the way, the cookie crumbles. And I think that what we need more than anything right now is to say, okay, I'm going to sit my old belief system on the shelf for a moment, my old paradigm on the shelf for a moment, and I'm just going to allow myself to entertain the possibility that I might not have all the answers, that there may be something very deep within me that needs to be unlocked. And once I experience this, it's going to make sense. All right? And I am starting this by saying I'm sending out just nothing but positivity, love, vibrations to everybody that watches. And I really do hope that you receive that. And if you receive something from tonight's show, from this channel, from my work, consider giving back and supporting us, because we go by donations. So that's how I do my thing. And you can just send positive energy if you don't have money. That's cool too, but just it works way better when we reciprocate with one another. It creates balance within the collective, within our group, and within the whole family dynamic. So tonight we're going to look at the occult mysteries, esoteric mysteries, initiation. I've got a few different grimoires, and I've got all different types of things I'm going to look at. And we're going to explore. I'm going to share what I know as far as that goes. But like I said, consider that you're more special than you've ever been told. Consider that you have more power over your reality than what you ever thought possible. And consider that if you tap into that you could change your entire world, your entire paradigm, your entire reality. But it takes more than belief. It takes a real commitment to it, a real commitment not to just learning and understanding these type of things and attaining the knowledge. The knowledge is incredibly important. The knowledge truly is power, right? We need the tools in our tool belt in order to work out these problems of life, in order to work, on the deep inner parts of ourselves, whether that be our psyche and our thoughts, our emotions, our traumas, whatever. Like, we need those tools in our tool belt. So that's like one. But after we have those tools, we have to be able to actually utilize them, right? And there are people over centuries and centuries of time that have tuned into a frequency, a vibration that exceeds the physical. The physical, matter of fact, is subservient to this vibration. We would call it illumination, and we'd call it enlightenment. And I could say you could point to any great master or teacher, and I don't care what school of thought you go to. To me, they vary in degree. And whether you're looking at an Aleister Crowley who called himself the B666, or you're looking at Buddha, it doesn't matter. That's just a reflection more of the person's persona and how they express the knowledge than of the knowledge itself. And then when we look at the knowledge, we have to understand we're taking it in through our own filter as well, right? So the filter of John Keene isn't going to be the filter of Mary, Martha, or, Jacob, or whoever you are, right? Like, so you're going to perceive it in a different way because you have a different religious and cultural upbringing and background. So it's going to challenge you in a variety of different ways too. So what may be some dogmas or stigmas for me that are hard for me to leap over may be very easy for you and be nothing at all. And vice versa. Like some things that I'm just like, hey, I can let go of that so easy. Like that might be something that you grip onto. So we got to understand it truly is a personal journey. And even though we do this as a spiritual family, like a spiritual team, a collective, a group, and we are a group, and if you participate, you're agreeing to the group dynamic of mutual respect and mutual love to every person within the group, no matter what their belief system is, no matter what their sex, race, sexual orientation. There is absolutely zero hatred that is tolerated within this family dynamic. So that's just up front as well. But it's very individual also in itself. And we need to understand that I am trying to create pillars within a community that do have the knowledge to be able to kind of leapfrog on their own and take this shit to another level, or people that I can refer others to for guidance, for wisdom. And I do this myself. I utilize every tool in my tool belt. So if I have a question, I go to the person that I know knows those things. Like that's just how I am. I have people that have mentored me and helped me along the way. And more than anything, I've found that the best mentor we have is our own spirit, our own consciousness itself. And we have to fine tune on how to tap into that. So let's go ahead and get started here. Yeah, you love learning. We'll see. You would never leave John Boy. He's one in a few who get this. Hey, and like attracts like. So understand too that if you're here, you didn't just walk in by accident. You know what I mean? Like you were meant to come into this. You were meant to walk into this. And this is the hard part. We're gonna attack a couple labels before I jump into the books. And that's going to be the harder part. That's going to be where we need to baby each other a little bit and be understanding that, we've been hit with neuro-linguistic programming and insane forms of thought and mind control for a long time. And it's incredibly powerful. And it affects us, and it has a ripple effect on us in the way that we perceive things for a very long time too, like within our lives. And it takes a lot of, jumping the hurdles and kind of going with the waves and flows of energy to be able to overcome those things. So a lot of the words could trigger people, so I just want to, put that out there. Don't allow yourself to be triggered. Allow yourself to be opened up and see where it goes. So, all right. Illuminati, the eye symbology. The Illuminati is the name of many groups, modern and historical, real and fictitious, verified and alleged. Most commonly, however, the Illuminati refers specifically to Bavarian Illuminati, perhaps the least secret of all secret societies in the world, described below. Most use refers to an alleged shadowy conspiratorial organization which controls world affairs behind the scenes, usually a modern incarnation or continuation of the Bavarian Illuminati. Illuminati is sometimes used synonymously with New World Order. And I just want to say that when you look at the word Illuminati, it means to be illuminated, right? And this is what I'm talking about. Take away all the shit you thought you know about it. All right, take away all those fucktard videos on YouTube that, Got the person throwing up the three fingers or the triangle over their eye. Take all of that out of it and try to see it for what it really is. And it is a frequency of consciousness that is truly in the courts of heavens that you can access, right? If you're able to tap in and hold that frequency and hold that space, right? And that's the hidden hand, is you. It's not a group of fat, dudes, 12 fat dudes sitting around a table deciding how the international banking system's going to go. The banking system is built on currency, current for the flow of waters. The waters below and above the firmament. We make up the waters. The waters are all languages, multitudes, nations, and tongues. It is people. Jesus Christ walked on water, right? You get me? So it's a currency, a flow of the matrix or the system itself. All right. Illuminati is a Greek word meaning illumination, a name given to those who submitted to Christian baptism. And I do want to say, too, there is a certain submission in this, and you're going to understand that the submission in itself is surrender to self. All right. It's surrender to ego, surrender to self. And Christ literally has corporatized the matrix, the spiritual concept of the matrix. I was watching a video just the other day. It was Seven Bomar, understanding, and he read like this whole edict from the Vatican, where they literally claimed authority spiritually over the entire concept of the matrix, the entire archetype of the matrix. Christ owns that. Whether you agree or disagree, I'm not going to say I could care less. I'm just going to say you're wrong if you disagree. That's why it has the authority it does. That's why it has the power it does. It is the Christos, which means the anointing. The anointing in the spirit. It is a high, it's the highest frequency attained within the spiritual archetype of the matrix in itself. That's why it carries the authority that it does. That's why it's represented through the hierarchical system of the churches like the Vatican and all of that, the way that it is. And it goes far beyond Christianity. It goes into Egypt and all the things that you see of the mysteries, the Ankh, those are also forms of Christ. That's why Thoth, the Atlantean priest king, resembles Christ so damn much, right? Because they were tapping into something very similar, possibly the same, So, it's illumination, a name given those submitted to Christian baptism. Remember, baptism is water, right? And the Holy Spirit, the baptism of fire. And it does have a lot to do with mastery of the elements. We'll talk about that as we go through. Those who were baptized were called Illuminati or illuminated, enlightened ones by the ante-Nicene clergy. And on the assumption that those who were instructed for baptism in the apostolic faith had an enlightened understanding. The Alumbrados, a mystical 16th century Spanish sect, were among the societies that subsequently adopted the name Illuminati. The origins, the weapon of God. It is the weapon of God, just to keep it, all the way real. They have claimed dominion over the entirety of the matrix construct. So and you're going to understand that the higher and lower are just mirror images or reflections of one another. We are in a copy of the original. That's what our reality or world is. So the Saturn moon matrix, or whatever you want to call it, the cube, is a copy of the original Eden or the original garden. So, and I feel like when you tap into that highest frequency, you sort of break the governors off that have kept you constricted, kept you oppressed within the system. It is a system of debt. That's the currency too. It's a monetary thing. Sin debt, monetary debt, shame and guilt debt, however you want to look at it. And that's why you see in Luciferianism, the Baphomet, balancing the two. It's about taking the narrow gate, the narrow way and not allowing yourself to be pulled to one side or the other, or one extreme polarity or the other, and being given to that system of death. Since Illuminati means enlightened ones in Latin, it is natural that several unrelated historical groups have identified themselves as Illuminati. Often this was due to claims of possessing Gnostic text or other arcane information not generally available. The designation Illuminati was also in use from the 14th century by the Brethren of the Free Spirit, and in the 15th century was assumed by other enthusiasts who claimed that the illuminating light came not by being communicated from an authoritative but secret source, but from within. The result of exalted consciousness or enlightenment, and I want to just highlight that. Okay? Not by being communicated from an authoritative but secret source like you've been told, right? You've been told that the hidden hand is 12 or 13 powerful families that control the international banking system, right? But from within, the result of exalted consciousness or enlightenment. And remember, the Bible says, which is the most esoteric occultic book you'll ever find, the Bible, by the way, 66 books, Jesus was 33 and all of that. They're literally telling you the process of how to enlighten in the Bible. Exalted consciousness, humble thyself and be exalted, right? Or exalt yourself and be humbled. You know, and this is where it comes into play. You have to understand you are giving yourself over to this higher consciousness when you decide to take that step. And we're going to actually go through different doctrines of Golden Dawn and OTO and stuff. And you can do with it what you will after you have viewed it. Okay. Alumbrados of Spain. To the former class belong the alumbrados. And look, that's alumni, right? That's why you see in college and shit, right? The historian Marcelino Menendez y Pelayo found the name as early as 1492, significant year, in the form of Illuminados, 1498, but traced them to the Gnostic origin and thought their views were promoted in Spain through influences from Italy. One of the earliest leaders, born Salamanca, a laborer's daughter, known as La Beata di Piedrita, came under the notice of the Inquisition in 1511 as claiming to hold colloquies with Jesus and the Virgin Mary. Some high patronage saved her from a rigorous denunciation. Menendez Pelayo los Retratos Españoles in 1881. Ignatius Loyola, while studying the Salamanca in 1527, was brought before ecclesiastical commission on a charge of sympathy with the Alumbrados, but escaped with an admonition. Illumines of France. The movement, under the name of Illumines, seemed to reach France from Seville in 1623 and attained some following in Picardy when joined in 1634 by Pierce Guerin, cure of Saint Jorges de Roy, whose followers, known as Guerinese, were suppressed in 1635. A century later, another, more obscure body of Illuminings came to the light in the south of France in 1722 and appears to have lingered in 1794, having affinities with those known contemporaneously in Britain as French prophets, an offshoot of the Camisards. Now we get into the Rosicrucians. The different class were the Rosicrucians, and that's the rose and the cross, which we're going to look at Rosicrucianism tonight too, who claimed to originate in 1407 but rose into notice in 1614 when their main text, Fama Fraternitas, appeared, a secret society that claimed to combine the possession of esoteric principles of religion with the mysteries of alchemy. Their positions are embodied in 3 anonymous treatises of 1614, mentioned in Richard and Gerard, Dictionnaire Universel des Sciences Ecclésiastiques. Paris 1825, as well as the Confessio Fraternitas of 1615. The Rosicrucians also claimed heritage from the Knights Templar. And you guys all know about Jacques Villeneuve and, Friday the 13th and the Knights Templar and the burning at the stake and all of that. And that's really what they were doing, was they were carrying the secrets of Christ way back then, and the figure of Christ, the Pope and the Roman Catholic Church. This goes into all of this, so like that's where all of these churches and bodies and groups get their authority. It's from a higher authority. It's the courts of heavens. The Illuminati is a go-between between God. These are angels, in essence, gatekeepers, right? They are conscious beings. You could call it Lucifer. You could call it whatever you want. I don't even want to put a name to it because it's your consciousness, to keep it real. It's not overnight. John's going through it right now. Well, but this is a go-between between the spiritual realm. They control the gates of the spiritual realm and the financial realm. Like I said, it's all based on financial currency, right? The currents of the waters of the firmament, between the heavens, the courts of heavens, and the physical world. And you cannot come into contact with this unless you're, I believe there's a few ways you can be genetically predisposed to this. You can do the work and get yourself there consciously, but I don't think you can come into contact with this by mistake, is my point. Martinist. Later, the Illuminati was applied to the French Martinists, which had been founded in 1754 by Martinez Pasqualis, and to their imitators, the Russian Martinists, headed about 1790 by Professor Swartz of Moscow. Both were occultists, Kabbalists, and allegorists, absorbing eclectic ideas from Jacob Boehme and Emanuel Swedenborg. The Bavarian Illuminati, a movement of free thinkers, and remember, America was built on Illuminati principles too, like Libertas and all of that shit. If you look on the Statue of Liberty, it's got the Freemason emblem on it right there. So I'm just, our whole Declaration of Independence, there's a very legality side to all of this as well, because it is the courts of heavens. So remember, Satan the accuser is bringing charges against mankind day and night, right? And it's really your carnal side bringing charges against your higher side, trying to keep you locked into the cycle of death and rebirth of the matrix system. A movement of free thinkers that were most radical offshoot of the Enlightenment, whose adherents were given the name Illuminati, but who called themselves Perfectibilists, were found on May 1st, 1776, another pretty impactful year, by Jesuit-taught Adam Weishaupt, who was the first lay professor of canon law. The group has also been called the Illuminati Order, or the Order of the Illuminati. And the Bavarian Illuminati, in the conservative state of Bavaria, where the progressive and enlightened Elector Maximilian III, Joseph von Wittelsbach, was succeeded in 1777 by his conservative heir Karl Theodore, and which was dominated by the Roman Catholic Church and the aristocracy. Such an organization did not last long before it was suppressed by the powers of the day. And you can see why. Right? This is like, I told you, Spirit had given me this message, like, to stop casting my pearls before swine. That people who wanted to receive the blessings of this type of information would be open to it, they would be receptive to it, and they would receive it, and they would reciprocate, and to just kind of leave the rest, that this is where I want to take things. This is what I'm doing now in my life. I always try to learn more and more every day, go deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole, and I'm sick of being oppressed. I'm sick of being controlled. I'm sick of being victim to the almighty dollar. I'm sick of all of those things, and I'm ready to empower myself and take control of my own destiny, my own life. And I know that there are others out there that feel just like I do, that know and believe in themselves enough to understand that we do have the power to do that. In 1784, the Bavarian government banned all secret societies, including the Illuminati and the Freemasons. The structure of the Illuminati soon collapsed, but while it was in existence, many influential intellectuals and progressive politicians counted themselves as members. And it's progressive because it's a progression, right? It's a process. It's a spiritual process of evolution, a conscious process of evolution, and it's humanity's conscious process of evolution. And those that are a part of it are the leaders of the conscious evolution of mankind. Okay? And that's where I'm trying to really drive home with people is you've got to understand that what we've been fed by media and by all these goofball fucking YouTubers that, you know, think they know something, and I've been one of them, right? Like, that just demonize all of these things. They don't really understand. Until you have tapped in, you don't know. You can't know. You can't possibly understand something you've never seen, you've never experienced, right? Like, that's like trying to explain fucking, you know, ice cream to a Martian, you know? Like, if you don't have it on your planet, then how the fuck are you going to even try to, you know, illuminate someone on what ice cream is like if they've never even experienced ice cream, tasted ice cream, seen ice cream, or any of that, known its texture or anything. And so listening to YouTubers and content creators and all this try to tell you what the Illuminati is and what they stand for and what it actually means and what the hidden hand actually means, but they've never tapped into the frequency, well, it's just fucking insanity to continue to put that garbage down our necks, you know, and continue to eat that shit like it's truth, because it's not. And I'm here to set the record straight on that. Its members were supposedly drawn primarily from Masons and former Masons, and although some Masons were known to be members, there is no evidence that it was supported by Freemasons. The members pledged obedience to their superiors and were divided into three main classes. The first, known as the nursery, and that's just the child being born, right? The Christ child being born within you. You know, you have to nurture that child. And that's why you need a family, a group, a collective to be able to do that, because it takes a tribe in anything that we do, especially something as sensitive as our conscious and spiritual development. Encompassed by the ascending degrees or office of preparation, novice, minerval, and illuminatus minor, the second known as the masonry, consisting of the ascending degrees of illuminatus major and illuminatus dirigens. And think about that too. You need to be prepared for a world that you have never experienced. You need to be able to build your own conscious construct as well, and that takes help. People who's already built their own, right? So it's not about being subservient to others that are within some order. It's none of it is built on subservience, is what I want to say to you. It's all built on freedom, truthfully. Each person in their own individual free reality where you can decide whether or not you want to coexist consciously with someone or not. You want to participate with something or not. It's pure freedom. And, you know, you do need people that have built it. That way you don't build yourself into a prison. That way you don't build yourself into hell, you know? So that's why there are varying degrees of this and levels to it. It's to take you through a process. That way you step into your birthright, ultimately, is the end goal. And also called the Scottish Knight, the third, designated the mysteries, were subdivided into the degrees of lesser mysteries, presbyter and regent, and those of the greater mysteries, magus and rex, which magus is magician, goes back to the Temple of Set and all of that with Egypt. Relations with Masonic lodges were established at Munich and Freising in 1780. The order had its branches in most countries of the European continent. Its members were reportedly around 3,000 to 4,000 members in the span of 10 years. Now think about that. a span of 10 years and only 3 or 4,000 people. That shows you like how special you are, the fact that you're even encountering something like this, you know. But as with anything, and this is, I believe this, where intention goes, energy flows. This is why they create dues and shit like that to lodges. You're sowing into something, any project, anything that we create. We have to put our intent into that, our energy into that, in order to build on that. And, you know, whether it's paying, you know, dues and fees to the lodges or wherever you get the information or whatever, or it's making the necessary changes within your life that need to take place in order to free yourself up for the experience. There will be changes that have to be made, and there will be dues that have to be paid. And that's just, nothing of true value comes for free. You feel me? Like, and half of it is, are you willing to believe in yourself and believe in the process and to sow into that? You know, do you have the faith to blindly follow an external deity in religion enough to make soul contracts with it and give your eternal soul to it? But do you have enough faith in yourself and in your own spiritual evolution and in the fact that you belong in the courts of heaven, and that you belong in contact with the divine, with what's provident, that you belong with that, and you're willing to sow into that. The order had its branches in most countries of the European continent. Its members were reportedly around 3,000 to 4,000 members in the span of 10 years. The scheme had its attraction for literary men such as Goethe and Herder, and even the reigning dukes of Gotha and Weimar. Internal rupture preceded its downfall, which was affected by an edict in the Bavarian government in 1785. And the internal rupture ultimately lies in the ego of man, you know. A lot of governmental systems and things like that don't, and I feel like there's been a lot of plagiarism to this too as well, you know, where people don't like that you're not under their thumb or under the oppression or under control. So, you know, they're going to try to create as many distractions, as many things as they can to sway you away from this, you know. The cultural effect, two of everything. Well, absolutely, there is two of everything. Our Creator in Christ, no doubt about it. It is in Christ, and you'll see that actually Illumination is stepping into that rank of Christ. Actually, the Bavarian Illuminati have cast a long shadow in popular history, thanks to the writings of their opponents. The lurid allegations of conspiracy that have colored the image of the Freemasons have practically opaqued that of the Illuminati. In 1797, Abbe Augustin Birrell published memoirs illustrating the history of Jacobism, outlining a vivid conspiracy theory involving the Knights Templar, the Rosicrucians, the Jacobins, and the Illuminati. A Scottish Mason and professor of natural history named John Robison stated to publish proofs of a conspiracy against all the religions and governments in Europe in 1798, and Robison claimed to present evidence of an Illuminati conspiracy striving to replace all religions with humanism and all nations with a single world government. What? Say what? With humanism? With humanism? So you're telling me they're humanist? That they believe in the human spirit? I thought they were evil. And a single world government, it's the government under the divine. The true creator. The source that doesn't have a name or a religion attached to it. We use Christos as a way of explaining the anointing from said source. But we can also use Buddha. We can use whatever we want to explain that, because every religion in the world goes back to this source, right? And these are the exoteric understandings of something totally esoteric. the single world government is the only true authority within this world anyways, and it's spirit. And you have to demonize these things, because if you don't create, if you just open this path to everyone, and I said this earlier in the little promo video for tonight, I feel like people have taken a lot of my teachings and weaponized them against others, including myself. People have taken things I've taught them and weaponized it against me, you know? And it shows you some people don't deserve the knowledge that they're being given. And if we don't create a pathway where you have to earn it, you can only, and with becoming illuminated or enlightened, you can only go as far as your own feet will take you. Right? You'll never go further down the path than you belong. Right? Because it's such a spiritual process and it's about going inward. If you don't truly do the work, you won't be enlightened. You know, so if you truly want growth, like I said, you will sow into it. You will put your time, your energy, your money, your effort. You will pay dues. You will do what you need to do. You will find mentors, you know, and you will humble yourself to be exalted, right? And you will do it the right way and learn it the right way, or you won't get down the path. And it's that simple. A Scottish Mason and professor of natural history named John Robison stated to publish proofs of a conspiracy against all the religious and governments of Europe in 1798. Robison claimed to present evidence of an Illuminati conspiracy striving to replace all religions with humanism and all nations with a single world government. Shots fired. Shots fired. Hey, I'm not firing shots. I'm just fucking saying I'm sick of just dishing the shit out to people like that aren't willing to put in the work for it. You feel me? Like, if we really want to grow and expand and evolve and develop, then we have to be willing to do the inner work that needs to be done. You know? So. More recently, Anthony C. Sutton suggested the secret society Skull and Bones was founded as the American branch of the Illuminati. Others think Scroll and Key had Illuminati origins, as well as writer Robert Gillette claimed that these Illuminatis ultimately intended to establish a world government through assassinations, bribery, blackmail, the control of banks and other financial powers, the infiltration of government's mind control by causing wars and revolution to move their own people into higher positions in the political hierarchy. Yeah, shadow work. Yeah, it is shadow work. And this is people that didn't do their shadow work. When you see people doing this shit, does that sound like higher consciousness to you? And I've encountered these levels. I told you guys, there was 4 attempts in my life just this year alone. There's been so many roadblocks on my path to try to stop me from being who I am and sharing what I know with people. It's not funny. And you're going to have to hurdle some of the lower levels. And at the lower levels, it is fear-based. You know, there's a lot of ego there. You know? And not everybody gets to this because they had a silver spoon in their mouth. You know, if you want to get to the higher states of consciousness, you do the work. You know? And you know, those who attempt to control and oppress or use knowledge for controlling and oppression are the ones who just don't understand how it works. And in the end, the only person they end up controlling and oppressing is themselves. Right? When it's all said and done, they'll find themselves in their own mental prison. You know, remember, those who kill by the sword they must be killed. Those who place others into captivity they will go. Right? It's the rules of karma. It's a mirror world. You can't avoid it. You know. At this point, to know the truth, would it do you any good? Would you believe it? I mean, it's on each person individually on what they believe, what they don't believe. I I can't tell people what to believe. I've tried to sway people to my train of thought for years now. You know, I'm gonna let you accept what you accept and do what you do. You know, and leave it at that. Thomas Jefferson, on the other hand, claimed they intended to spread information and the principles of true morality. And Thomas Jefferson, to me, was probably the only legit one, back with the Declaration of Independence and all of that. He attributed the secrecy of the Illuminati to what he called the tyranny of the despot and priest. Thomas Jefferson was a motherfucking gangster, if you want my opinion. And that's, we've seen different things where he's been trying to be demonized because, he had children with black women and stuff like that. It's because he believed in true freedom, right? Like, if you're truly free, you can sleep with any race, Like, he wasn't held by all of those things, Thomas Jefferson, to me, was not just a founding father, but he probably was one of the greatest minds to ever walk the earth. And that's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with that. Both seem to agree that the enemies of the Illuminati were the monarchs of Europe and the church. Baruzzi claimed that the French Revolution 1789 was engineered and controlled by the Illuminati through the Jacobins, and later conspiracy theorists have also claimed their responsibility for the Russian Revolution. Although the order was officially shut down in 1790, few historians give credence to these views. They regard such claims as the products of over-fertile imaginations. And I'm not saying that people that weren't illuminated didn't engineer some of these things. There's a strong possibility that they did, right? A probability that maybe they did. But I'm just saying that, you don't know why they were engineered or why these things took place the way that they did and what the overall arcing goal is for humanity. I don't believe it's people that actually control and influence our world whatsoever. The ones who sacrificed the children to Moloch became the sacrifice in the end. Well, that's some whole other shit. We'll get into that too. I don't get down with that. That's not me. I don't feel like none of that's necessary, but, everybody's got their own variation of what they believe. Several sources suggest the Bavarian Illuminati survived and perhaps even exist today. Conspiracy theorists highlight the link between the Illuminati and Freemasonry. It's also suggested that the United States founding fathers, some being Freemasons, were rife with corruption from the Illuminati. Often the symbol of that all-seeing pyramid in the Great Seal of the United States is cited as an example of the Illuminati's ever-present watchful eye over Americans. And it's the eagle, too, which is Jupiterian, right? So it's about Inky, right? And enlightenment and truth and knowledge and all of that. And that's why they always go back to Gnosticism, because it's gnosis, right? And the demiurge, understanding the archonic control that the system is under, the 7 rays, the 7 days of the week. We talk about a lot of this stuff on this channel. Very little reliable evidence can be found to suggest that Weishaupt's group survived in the 19th century. However, several groups have since used the name Illuminati to found their own rights, claiming to be the Illuminati. Such groups include the Grand Lodge of Rockefeller of David Goldman, Orden Illuminati of Gabriel Lopez de Rojas, and the Illuminati Order of Solomon Tobur. In 1995, Gabriel L. Pez de Rojas founded Illuminati Order in Barcelona, Spain, elaborating the operative rite of the Illuminati of Bavaria. The rite is based on the rite of the Illuminati and the high degrees of the Scottish rite of 33 degrees. And the system of its Illuminati Grandmaster, Gabriel L. Pez de Rojas, is the Redism. The system is based on the Lemma Homo est Deus, or man is God. Man is God. And that just goes into the golden ratio and all of that, showing that we're all a fractal or a fragment of the Creator. Groups describing themselves as Illuminati say they have members in chapters or lodges throughout the world. About the time that the Illuminati were outlawed in Bavaria, the Roman Catholic Church prohibited its members from joining Masonic lodges on pain of excommunication. This was done as a general edict, since the Church believed many lodges to have been infiltrated and subverted by the Illuminati. It was not able to accurately ascertain which ones. The rule was relaxed only in the late 20th century. And, they still have many, what's the one order that Temple of Malta or Knights of Malta, right? So they still have many different orders that are able to be within Roman Catholic priesthood and all of that. And if you look at just deacons and bishops and their whole hierarchical system, it's the same type of construct. Matter of fact, if you go to a 12-step group, AA or NA, it's the same construct, just kind of put in a different way. So any of our 12-step systems, all of that, it's all the same thing, honestly. But many people don't believe it. Zion is a place often used as a synonym for Jerusalem. Mount Zion is an archaic term that originally referred to a specific mountain near Jerusalem on which stood a Jebusite fortress of the same name that was conquered by David. Zion became applied to the section of Jerusalem where the fortress stood after Solomon's temple was built there. And Zion is the third temple. This is where we tap into the higher, temple of heaven or courts of heaven. It's our third eye, right? And the fortress is the cube, right? And 4 in numerology, represents protection. It can also represent aggression. But there. It came to refer to the temple grounds of the temple itself. Today, Zion is often used metaphorically to come in which God dwells among his chosen people. And that's the spiritual God that dwells among the third temple. Mount Zion to a specific mountain near Jerusalem, which stood Jebusite fortress. Okay, here, let me go here now. And after we do a little bit of the history here, we're going to dive into these texts. Freemasonry. Masonry refers to fraternal organizations that trace their origins to the local guilds of stonemasons, right? Builders, the stone, the living stone. From that to the end of the 13th century, regulated to the qualifications of stonemasons and their interaction with authorities and clients. Freemasonry has been the subject of numerous conspiracy theories throughout the years. Modern Freemasonry broadly consists of 2 main recognition groups. Regular Freemasonry insists that a volume of scripture to be open in a working lodge, that every member profess belief in a supreme being, that no women be admitted, and that the discussion of religion and politics be banned. And I think the women thing is more of a spiritual concept, like the divine feminine, but we'll get into that another day. The Continental Freemasonry consists of the jurisdictions that have removed some or all of these restrictions. So, there's different orders for women now. The basic local organizational unit of Freemasonry is the lodge. These private lodges are usually supervised at the regional level, usually coterminous with the state, province, or national border by a Grand Lodge or Grand Orient. There is no international worldwide Grand Lodge that supervises all of Freemasonry. Each Grand Lodge is independent, and they do not necessarily recognize each other as being legitimate. The degrees of Freemasonry retain 3 grades of medieval craft guilds. Those of entered apprentice, journeyman, or fellow, now called fellowcraft, and master mason. And these guilds, the Freemasons were the first guild, and from my understanding of it, each trade or skill or guild are processes of humanity's evolution. These are different works like smelting and smithing and carpentry and all of this. These are different guilds or trades that are added on after Freemasonry, right? And this is humanity's conscious evolution or procession of how we have expanded our knowledge, and it always refers back to the spiritual realm as well. So whenever we're, smelting or smithing or, masons, stonemasons, carpenters, any of these type of things, there is a spiritual concept to it that goes into play also, and that it is a form of a craft, right? It's a form of a craft and a trade, and that man in its origin, we survived based on what we knew, and that's where the whole concept of trade, and like I said, it's all built on currency, spiritual currency, the current or flow of electricity, or the flow of waters, the rising of the tides and all of that, the spiritual waters. And by the trades that we knew, those professions, we would be born into those, we would be apprenticed into those, right? That's how all of these concepts came about, and they are just doorways upon doorways upon doorways, deriving from the original one, which is Freemasonry. Okay. The degrees of Freemasonry retain the 3 grades of medieval craft guilds. See, craft guilds. Those of entered apprentice, journeyman or fellow, now called fellow craft, and master mason. The candidate of the 3 degrees is progressively taught the meanings of the symbols of Freemasonry and entrusted with grips, signs, and words to signify to other members that he has been so initiated. And I've done videos in the past that talk about, different grips, touching of the second or the third knuckle, right, to represent, second or third degree, the feet at the 45-degree angle, just different things like that, to kind of show another person that where you're at in your craft. The candidate of these 3 degrees is progressively taught the meanings of the grips, the signs, and the words to signify to other members that he's been so initiated. Remember, the signs are symbols as well, which represent energetic frequencies, which you are attaching yourself to an energetic frequency because you're trying to harness a particular energy, whether you're throwing up, the horns or, the 3 fingers or whatever, you're attaching to an energetic frequency. The degrees are part of allegorical morality play and part lecture. 3 degrees are offered by craft or Blue Lodge Freemasonry, and members of any of these degrees are known as Freemasons or Masons. These are additional degrees which vary with locality and jurisdiction and are usually administered by their own bodies, separate from those who administer the craft degrees. Freemasonry is a worldwide fraternal organization, meaning it's a brotherhood, right? And that's why police, firefighters, all of that, those are forms of fraternal orders or brotherhoods, and 5-pointed stars as badges. Its members are joined together by shared ideals, both of morale and metaphysical nature, and in most of its branches by a common belief in a supreme being. Freemasonry is an esoteric art, and that certain aspects of its internal work are not generally revealed to the public. Masons give numerous reasons for this, one of which is that Freemasonry uses an initiatory system of degrees to explore ethical and philosophical issues, and this system is less effective if the observer knows beforehand what will happen. It often calls itself a peculiar system of morality, veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols. So think about that. This is exactly what I'm saying. To truly prove, you're willing to go the distance, you can't know what lies on the other side of the door. It's a leap of faith. It's walking through the fucking door. It's like, yeah, I might fall into the bottomless pit when I go through this thing, or I might walk into the clouds of heaven, but I'm willing to take the risk because no risk, no reward. And it's a peculiar system of morality because you see that morality is speculative, right? And that each group or person or whatever church, or they all have their own version of what morality is, and there's not one underlying version of morality. So it's going to challenge those belief systems and challenge the way that we perceive morality as a whole. Whether that be through how we perceive sexuality or how we perceive religion, and it's done in allegory because it's tapping into a higher conscious uh, part of ourselves. So that allegorical part correlates to every part of us. Remember, our reality is a reflection of our consciousness. So using that allegory allows it to tap in on all levels, illustrated by symbols, which symbols are energetic frequencies. Behind the veil of secrecy, Freemasonry, known popularly for its white aprons and arcane symbols, is the world's oldest fraternal organization. Despite its longevity, Freemasons have been shrouded in mystery. To outside observers, the organization's rites and practices may seem cult-like, clannish, and secretive, even sinister. Some of this stems from Freemasons' often deliberate reluctance to speak about the organization's rituals to outsiders. But it's also partly the result of many popular movies and books such as Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code, and that have fostered misconceptions and depicted the order in unflattering light. And this is what I'm talking about too. People that don't know, demonizing it, right? People that, it's like me trying to, I'm not a Freemason, so me trying to tell you all the inner workings of Freemasonry, I mean, I have a bird's eye view of a lot of these things, but I can't possibly tell you all the inner workings of it if I'm not a member of an order, and there's a secrecy to it because, like I was saying, you don't cast your pearls before swine, so people have to go through the process in order to attain those mysteries, that knowledge. In reality, however, Freemasonry is a worldwide organization with a long and complex history. Its members have included politicians, engineers, scientists, writers, inventors, and philosophers. Many of those members have played prominent roles in world events, such as revolutions, wars, and intellectual movements. In addition to being the world's oldest fraternal organization, Freemasonry is also the world's largest such organization, boasting an estimated worldwide membership of some 6 million people, according to a report by the BBC. As the name implies, a fraternal organization is one that composed almost solely of men who gather together for mutual benefit, frequently for professional or business reasons. However, nowadays, women can be Freemasons. But Freemasons, or Masons as they're sometimes called, are dedicated to loftier goals as well, bound together by secret rites of initiation and ritual. Its members ostensibly promote the brotherhood of man, and in the past have often been associated with the 18th century Enlightenment principles such as anti-monarchism, republicanism, meritocracy, and constitutional government, said Margaret Jacob, Professor Emeritus of European History at the University of California, Los Angeles, and author of the book The Origins of Freemasonry, Facts and Fictions, University of Pennsylvania Press, 2005. This is not to say that Freemasonry is wholly secular and devoid of religious aspects. Its members are encouraged to believe in a supreme being, which, as the parlance of Masonry, is also known as the grand architect of the universe, and it's the architect of the system, the matrix. The grand architect, Jacob further explained, is akin to a deistic creator rather than a personal God as envisioned by Christianity. The concept of deism, which at its origins in the 17th century Enlightenment promotes the idea that the supreme being is like the ultimate watchmaker, a deity that created the universe but does not play an active role in the lives of its creations, because the creation in itself is it's self-functioning. It perpetuates itself on its own because of the perfection of the creation. A code of ethics also guides the behavior of members. The code is derived from several documents, the most famous of which, a series of documents known as the Old Charges or Constitutions. One of these documents, known as the Regis Poem or the Hallwell Manuscript, is dated to sometime around the latter 14th or 15th century and reportedly the oldest document to mention Masonry. According to Pierre Stone's Review of Freemasonry, an online magazine written by Freemasons, the Hallwell Manuscript is written in verse. In addition to purportedly tracing the history of Masonry, it also prescribes correct moral behavior for Masons. For example, members to be steadfast, trusty, and true, not to take bribes or harbor thieves. While many Masons are Christians, Freemasonry and Christianity have had a complex, often divisive relationship. Some Orthodox Christians have taken issue with Freemasonry's deism and its frequently perceived ties to paganism and the occult, but the Catholic Church has been among its harshest critics. In 1738, a papal decree prohibited Catholics from becoming Freemasons. Jacob wrote, "Even today, the papal ban on Freemasonry remains in place, with the Church declaring Freemasonry irreconcilable with the doctrine of the Church," according to the Vatican. I'm glad to see that you're back too. Nice to see you. The origins of Freemasonry are obscure, and the subject is rife with myth and speculation. One of the more fanciful claims is that the Freemasons are descended from the builders of Solomon's Temple, also known as the First Temple in Jerusalem, according to Jacob. Others have argued that Freemasons began as an offshoot of the Knights Templar, a Catholic military order dating to medieval times, and the famous American revolutionary Thomas Paine attempted to trace its origins of the order to the ancient Egyptians and the Celtic Druids. There's also been a long-standing rumor that Freemasons are the same as the Illuminati. In the 18th century secret society that began in Germany, Jacob wrote, most of these theories have been debunked, though some people continue to believe them. Freemasonry has its origins in the stonemasons guilds of medieval Europe. And I was telling you that, right? It starts with the different guilds, right? The stonemason was the first, and then it builds on that with each guild. Jacob told Live Science these guilds, especially active during the 14th century, were responsible for constructing some of the finest architecture in Europe, such as ornate Gothic cathedrals of Notre Dame in Paris and Westminster Abbey in London. And the way it was explained to me, too, is like our conscious communication is so complex that, like, written language and numbers and math and all of this are such deep conscious expressions, right? Like where they originated from. There's such deep and high levels of consciousness that these guilds were created to understand the inner workings of them and how to apply it to the physical reality. Like many artisan craft guilds of that, and it truly is an art or an expression of pure creation. Its members jealously guarded their secrets and were selective about who they chose as apprentices. Initiation for new members required a long period of training, during which they learned the craft and were often taught advanced mathematics and architecture. Their skills were in such high demand that experienced Freemasons were frequently sought not only by monarchs or high-ranking church officials. The guilds provided members not only with the wage protection and quality control over the work performed, but also important social connections, she added. Members gathered in lodges which served as the headquarters and focal points where the Masons socialized, partook in meals, and gathered to discuss the events and the issues of the day. However, the rise of capitalism, the market economy during the 16th and 17th centuries, the old guild system broke down. Jacob wrote, but the Masonic lodges survived. In order to bolster membership and raise funds, the stonemason guilds began to recruit non-Masons. At first, the new recruits were often relatives of existing members, but they increasingly included wealthy individuals and men of high social status. Many of these new members were learned gentlemen who were interested in the philosophical and intellectual trends that were transforming the European intellectual landscape at the time, such as rationalism, the scientific method, and Newtonian physics. The men were equally interested in questions of morality and especially how to build moral character. Out of this, a new focus grew speculative Freemasonry, which began in the 17th century. This modernized form of Masonry de-emphasized stoneworking, and the lodges became meeting places for men dedicated to and associated with liberal Western values. Freemasonry as we know it today grew out of the early 18th century in England and Scotland. She said a major turning point in Freemason history occurred in 1717 when the members of 4 separate London lodges gathered together to form what became known as the Premier Grand Lodge of England. The Grand Lodge became the focal point of British Masonry and helped to spread and popularize the organization. Freemasonry spread rapidly across the continent. Soon there were Masonic lodges scattered throughout Europe, from Spain and Portugal and the West and Russia in the East. It was also established in the North American colonies during the first half of the 18th century. By the late 18th century, the height of Enlightenment, Freemasonry carried considerable social cachet. Being a Mason signaled that you were at the forefront of knowledge. And this all goes into the monetary system too. Like the marks on coins and shit like that. Like this is how all of that came about. Right, it was almost like the marking, the Masonic markings on the coin signified that it was like good money. It was like the Queen's money, and that it couldn't be touched or messed with. So, and like I said, everything goes back to currency and energetic exchange. Freemasonry wasn't always welcomed in the United States in the 1830s. For example, a political party known as the Anti-Masonic Party formed, the Washington Post reported. It was the nation's original third political party, and its members were dedicated to countering what they believed was Freemasonry's undue political influence. William Seward, who went on to become President Abraham Lincoln's Secretary of State, began his political career as anti-Masonic candidate. Can women and minorities become Freemasons? The early Masonic lodges were exclusively male, meaning that women were prohibited from membership, a point made clear in the old charges: no bondman, no woman, no immoral or scandalous men. The tradition, a principle that reflected the predominant social arrangements of the time, continued for many decades, especially in Great Britain. But over the years, women increasingly began to play active roles in the organization, especially in the European mainland. In France, during the 1740s, for example, so-called lodges of adoption began to appear. Jacob said these were lodges that admitted a mixture of men and women, the latter mostly the wives, daughters, and female relatives of the male Masons. They were not fully independent, but were sanctioned by and attached to the traditional male lodges. Soon, similar lodges of adoption sprang up in the Netherlands and eventually in the United States. Out of this tradition, Masonic organizations were eventually formed that admitted both men and women as full members. Some of these organizations include the Order of Aramonth, the Order of the White Shrine of Jerusalem, and the Order of the Eastern Star. In these organizations, both men and women partake in Masonic rites, and women can hold positions of authority and leadership. The highest-ranking women in the Order of the Eastern Star, for example, is known as a worthy matron and is the presiding officer of the organization. There are also several Masonic-related girls and young women's organizations, such as the Order of the Job's Daughters, and the International Order of Rainbow for Girls, both of which are active today. The Rainbow Girls are an offshoot of the Order of the Eastern Star and is largely dedicated to service and charity. You can't hold all this info. Freemasonry has been said to be an institutional outgrowth of the medieval guilds of stonemasons, a direct descendant of the poor fellow soldiers of Christ in the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem. Remember, Solomon built his temple with demons, right? So he mastered his own demons to build his temple, his spiritual temple. The Knights Templar, an offshoot of the ancient mystery schools, an administrative arm of the Priory of Sion, the Roman Collegia, the Commacene Masters, intellectual descendants of Noah, and to have many other various sundry origins. Others will claim that it dates back only to the late 17th century and has no real connections to earlier organizations. Much of this is highly speculative, and the precise origins of Freemasonry may be lost in history. It is thought by many that Freemasonry cannot be straightforward outgrowth for medieval guilds of stonemasons. Among the reasons given for this conclusion, well documented and born in blood, are the fact that stonemasons' guilds do not appear to predate reasonable estimates for the time of Freemasonry's origins. That stonemasons lived near their work site and thus had no need for secret signs to identify themselves, and that the ancient charges of Freemasonry are nonsensical when thought of as being rules for a stonemason's guild. And that's just people who don't understand. Freemasonry is said by some, especially amongst Masons practicing the York Rite, to have existed even at a time of King Athelstan of England in the 10th century CE. Athelstan is said by some to have been converted to Christianity in York and have issued the first charter to the Masonic lodges there. The story is not currently substantiated. The dynasty had already been Christian for centuries. Some members of the Church of Christ of Latter-day Saints note similarities between the church's sacred endowments performed in LDS temples and Masonic rituals. Some Mormons have said this similarity may be because Masonic rituals are descended from those given by God at the Temple of Solomon and still contain many of the original truths. It may also be that early Mormon leaders, including Smith, were members of Freemasonry and incorporated its liturgy into the new religion. A more historically reliable, although still not unassailable source asserting the antiquity of Freemasonry in the Hallowell manuscript and Regis poem, which is believed to date from circa 1390, and which makes reference to several concepts and phrases similar to those found in Freemasonry. The manuscript itself refers to an earlier document, of which it seems to be an elaboration. It seems reasonable to suppose that, whatever its precise origins, Freemasonry provided a haven for the orthodox and their sympathizers during a time when such activity could result in one's death, and that has something to do with the tradition of secret meetings and handshakes. And the Middle Ages gave way to the modern age, and the need for secrecy subsided. The Freemasons began to openly declare their association with fraternity, which began to organize itself more formally. In 1717, 4 lodges met at the Apple Tree Tavern, the Crown Ale House in Drury Lane, the Goose and Gridiron in St. Paul's Churchyard, and the Rummer and Grapes Tavern in Westminster, in London, England, combined together and formed the first public Grand Lodge, the Grand Lodge of England. The years following saw Grand Lodges open throughout Europe as new Freemasonry spread rapidly. How much was of this spreading of Freemasonry itself, and how much was the public organization of pre-existing secret lodges? It's not possible to say with certainty. The GLE in the beginning did not have the current 3 degrees, but only the first 2. The 3rd degree appeared, so far as we know, around 1725. Opinions about the origins, objectives, and future of Freemasonry remain controversial from the times of inception to our times. For example, Shoko Asahara, founder of the controversial Japanese religious group Shimkiro, has prophesied in some of his sermons that in the future Freemasonry will merge into a united stream. According to Sir Richard Burton, Sufism was the Eastern parent of Freemasonry. The possibility that Burton was correct is examined in detail by Idris Shah in his book titled The Sufis, beginning on page 205. The organizational structure, and after we do this, we're going to jump into some documents. That's the path I'm leaving and getting rid of the ego self. I mean, I can say this. My ego has held me back from so many things, in my life. Like, it's not even funny. So many opportunities in life, by the ego and the things that I believe. And, you see, like, belief truly is like the enemy of knowing. We're given a belief system when we're born, and we're told what to believe, how to believe it, and what's right and what's wrong, and we're never given the ability or allowed the liberty to come to our own conclusions of what the world should or shouldn't be like for ourselves individually. And that's why I love self-illumination and diving deep into the self and really picking apart our old belief systems and our old structures and our old ways of thinking and looking at things from a newer perspective. I've had to let go of so many different things that no longer serve me in my current belief system and swallow my ego on so many different things. It's like not even funny, because I want to advance my own craft and advance my own self, consciously and expand and grow. And you can't do that when you're holding on to different dogmas and things like that. You just can't. These are like, we have so many self-constricting and oppressing beliefs, and we've already got so many of these systems in place. John, they want to kill me. I'm not bad. They want to kill you. Well, I mean, I'm not going to speak on that, but I'm just going to say, there's a lot of people I know and I've met. Maybe it's karma for some people, what they're getting back, falsely accusing others and stuff. So, I don't know. You gotta understand, like, what you give out into the universe is what you receive back. And I've had many people who try to take me down for, things I have or haven't done or did or didn't say, or because I didn't do things in their timing or the timing they wanted me to do it in, to the point that they've falsely accused me of things and, all types of stuff. So, we got to be careful how we handle our own energy and how we treat others, because that really does come back to bite you. Main article, the Grand Lodge. There are many different jurisdictions of governance of Freemasonry, each sovereign and independent of the others, and usually defined according to geographic territory. There is thus no central Masonic authority, although each jurisdiction maintains a list of other jurisdictions that it formally recognizes. If the other jurisdiction reciprocates that recognition, the two jurisdictions are said to be in amity, which permits the members of the one jurisdiction to attend closed meetings of the other jurisdiction's lodges and vice versa. Generally speaking, to be recognized by another jurisdiction, one must at least meet the jurisdiction's requirements for regularity, this generally meaning that one must have in place at least the ancient landmarks of Freemasonry, the essential characteristics considered to be universal to Freemasonry in any culture, in keeping with the decentralized and non-dogmatic nature of Freemasonry. However, there is no universally accepted list of landmarks, and even jurisdictions in amity with each other often have completely different ideas as to what those landmarks are. Many jurisdictions take no official position as to what the landmarks are. Freemasonry is often said to consist of two different branches, the Anglo and Continental traditions. In reality, there is no tidy way to split jurisdictions into distinct camps like this. For instance, jurisdiction A might recognize B, which recognizes C, which does not recognize A. In addition, the geographical territory of one jurisdiction may overlap with another's, which may affect their relations from purely territorial reasons. In other cases, one jurisdiction may overlook irregularities, and another due simply to a desire to maintain friendly relations. Also, a jurisdiction may be formally affiliated with one tradition while maintaining informal ties with the other. For all these reasons, labels like Anglo and Continental must be taken only as rough indicators, not as any clear designation. The ruling authority of Masonic jurisdiction is usually called a Grand Lodge, sometimes a Grand Orient. These normally correspond to a single country, although their territory can be broader or narrower than that. In North America, each state and province has its own Grand Lodge. The oldest jurisdiction in the Anglo branch of Freemasonry is the Grand Lodge of England, or the Moderns, founded in 1717, which later became the United Grand Lodge of England, when joined with the English Grand Lodge, the Ancients, in 1813, and the largest jurisdiction in England, generally considered to be the oldest in the world, the headquarters at Freemasonry Hall, Great Queen Street, London. The oldest in the Continental branch and the largest jurisdiction in France, the Grand Orient de France, founded in 1728. At one time, the Anglo and Continental branches recognized each other, but most jurisdictions cut off formal relations with the around the time at the unreservedly admitting atheists in 1877. In most Latin countries and Belgium, the French style of Freemasonry predominates. The rest of the world, accounting for the bulk of Freemasonry, tends to follow the English's lead. Most jurisdictions allow their members to visit lodges in recognized jurisdictions without reservation, leaving it to the foreign lodge to confirm the two jurisdictions are in amity. The UGLE, on the other hand, requires its members to check in with them before visiting lodges abroad to confirm amity. For example, visiting American lodges is discouraged. Now, let's jump into some of this here. And this is a study guide for the OTO. So, give a precursor to this. Well, it gives one itself, so I'll just kind of, and we'll look at, where's it at? The Minerva. We'll look at this in just a second, and just to give you a background before we get into the Minerva side. Minerva is the Roman goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare, sponsors the arts, trades, and strategy from the 2nd century BC onward, and the Romans equated her with the Greek goddess Athena, though the Romans did not stress her relation to battle and warfare as the Greek did. Following the Greek mythos around Athena, she was born of Metis, who had been swallowed by Jupiter, and burst from her father's head, fully armed and clad in armor, which to me would probably be Venus. Jupiter forcibly impregnated the Titaness Metis, which resulted in her attempting to change shape or shapeshift to escape him. Jupiter then recalled the prophecy that his own child would overthrow him as he had Saturn, and in turn Saturn had Salus. Fearing that their child would be male and would grow stronger than he was and rule the heavens in his place, Jupiter swallowed Metis whole after tricking her into turning herself into a fly. Yeah, definitely Venus if it's a fly. The Titaness gave birth to Minerva, and forged weapons of armor for her child within Jupiter's body. In some versions of the story, Metis continued to live inside of Jupiter's mind as the source of her wisdom. Others say she was simply a vessel for the birth of Minerva. The constant pounding and ringing left Jupiter with agonizing pain. To relieve the pain, Vulcan dead, and from the cleft Minerva emerged, whole, adult, and in full battle armor. She was the virgin goddess of poetry, music, medicine, wisdom, commerce, weaving, and the crafts. She's often depicted with her sacred creature as an owl, and named the Owl of Minerva, which symbolizes her association with wisdom and knowledge, well as less frequently the snake and the olive tree. So, there you have it. The Ordo Templi Orientis, the Lemic section. This is a study guide under the seal of the obligation of nothing in particular. Let's see if we can make this a little bigger. There we go. All right. And you're going to hear some of this stuff, so just listen. Element Earth, Chakras Ajna, Command, and Mudara Root Support. 1. The ego is attracted to the solar system. The Minerval degree represents the attraction of a wandering god or ego within the solar system. Preface to the revised rituals. I begin by showing the object of the pure soul, one, individual and eternal, into determining to formulate itself consciously, or as I may say, to understand itself, the Confessions of Aleister Crowley. And these are recommended for study, and these are just different libras, right? Like you see Equinox of the Gods, The Law for All, Magical and Philosophical Commentaries of the Book of the Law, and so on and so forth, The Revival of Magic. I've done fucking a million shows on a lot of these books, by the way. So just kind of putting that out there. Then you see recommended memorization. And if you guys want to get this, I'll drop this PDF in the Discord for people to check it out. You know, so if you want to study this on your own, this is it right here. So, you know, do it at your own. You better be serious, is all I'm saying. Right? Where's it at? Yeah, recommendations for memorization. The adorations in chapter 3 of Liber, beginning with the Unity Uttermost Showed and ending with Abode in Me, Rahor Kuit. These adorations are suitable for use in Liber Resh by OTO initiates. The Creed and Anthem, and they're just giving you the Gnostic Mass, and the Signs, Grip, and Word of the Minerval degree. Supplementary reading, Aleister Crowley and the Practice of the Magical Diary by James Wasserman, and The Shaving of Shagat, which is George Meredith. Recommended practices, meditate over the first paradox of philosophy. Review the Minerval lecture with your initiator, and if necessary, evaluate the meaning of do what thou wilt in terms of this principle. Attend and participate in Gnostic Mass, the central ceremony of OTO's public and private celebration. Solar adorations, say will, attached before a meal on a regular basis, and required for advancement. And it even says, meditate on the tarot trumps the star, the universe, the priestess, and the fool in terms of your initiation, which, you know, people don't like the tarot, and it is what it is at this point. And the Magical Diary include a brief magical autobiography, a discussion of your aims in joining the OTO, and ongoing analysis of the events in your life in terms of your initiation. You know, keep a journal. Required for advancement. Administratively, the Minerval is an initiate member of the Ordo Templi Orientis. Magically, the Minerval is as a welcome guest of the order rather than a full member. A Minerval cannot head a camp or sponsor another initiate. The Minerval may leave the order at any time for any reason. Full membership in the order begins with the first degree, wherein a magical bond of fraternity or brotherhood is established between the order and the initiate, which will last for the duration of the initiate's life. In an administrative sense, the first degree member may resign from OTO, but the magical link established in the first degree initiation cannot be broken during the initiate's lifetime. Therefore, the choice to proceed to the first degree should be considered carefully. There are 3 formal requirements for admission to the first degree. Number 1, the candidate must accept Liber al Valigus sub figura CCXX, known as the Book of the Law, without wishing to make changes in it, which we've done videos on the Book of the Law. The candidate must acknowledge the necessity for the timely payment of dues and fees. And this is what I'm talking about. Anytime that you get spiritual wisdom or energetic, energy from something, knowledge from something, you are supposed to contribute back to that. It's a law of reciprocation, right? So if you receive something from my teachings, donate or send a prayer, send something back in return for you to receive the benefit of what I'm showing you and giving to you. Same goes within orders. The candidate must consent the binding arbitration of aeropegus of OTO and resolving disputes between members of OTO. And that's just, there's laws to this, right? That way everything's done fairly. In addition, the candidate must possess a black dowel-shaped robe, preferably a wool, without a hood. There is no constraint on time in the Minerval degree. You may apply for advancement to the LO immediately after your Minerval ceremony, or you may take as long as you like to decide whether or not to proceed. There is no stigma attached to remaining a Minerval for the rest of your life if you so choose. Will, a magical dialogue to be performed a meal by Aleister Crowley. A with a knife knocks 3, 5, 3. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And then this is the process. What is thy will? It is my will to eat and drink. To what end? So that my body may be fortified thereby. To what end? That I may accomplish the great work. Love is a law. Love under will. Fall 2, knocks once. Amen, John? Well, thank you. This may be adapted as a monologue, and one may also add the inquiry of what answer appropriately, when it seems useful to specify the nature of the operation in progress at the time. So whatever you're working on, whatever magical work you're working on, can be part of that great work at that time. So whatever you're trying to manifest or whatever. The point is to seize every occasion of bringing every available force to bear upon the objective of the assault. It does not matter what the force is by any standard of judgment, so long as it plays its proper part in securing the success of the general purpose. Thus, even laziness may be used to increase our indifference to interfering impulses or envy to counteract carelessness. And he was pure evil. That's why. That's why you just missed the point. You feel me? That's why you're missing the point. That's your opinion on what evil is, your perspective on what you consider to be evil. What is the definition of evil? Some people could say that your acts are evil. That your mind is evil and poisoned. To cast judgment on another person is to cast judgment on yourself. And to express those type of opinions against another is really to reflect on, maybe something that you need to deal with within you. So let's not worry about what we think was evil from a person or what we think was not. We're trying to transcend the reality of dualism and duality, good and evil. Right? And reside in that narrow gate, that narrow path, that narrow way, in that higher state of consciousness. Okay? Who was Saladin? The historical character most commonly associated with the title was Salah ad-Din Yusuf ibn Ayyub, literally righteousness of the faith, Joseph, son of Job, the worthy and chivalrous adversary of Richard the Lionheart, Plantagenet, a bevy of Christ's crusader monarchs. It is this quite consistent that with the historical Templar links of the order that Aleister Crowley should have constructed the ritual with Saladin as the Lord initiating, and further consistency is evident with the settling of the action in Egypt. According to P.E. Walker, director of Columbia University Research Center in Egypt, Saladin was born in Tikrit, now Iraq, and following a military expedition to Egypt, which deposed the Shiite Fatimid Caliphate, he proclaimed a return to Sunni Muslim traditions in the country and became its sole ruler in 1171, Vera Vulgaris. It would be tempting to postulate at this point, since Saladin was a title, righteousness of the faith. The prisoner of the Minerval initiation might have been making his protestations of honorable intent to a predecessor warrior lord of Egypt who held the same title some 1600 years earlier, when Athens was indeed the ally of Madian. But there is no evidence to support such a suggestion. Saladin did not assume his title in Egypt, but brought it forth with him from his homeland, and no etymology, similar word, name, or title comes to the light from a scan of commonly available Greek or Egyptian language lexicons. Duty by Aleister Crowley. And this is a note on the chief rules. And I just want to say, too, you're so glad you joined the show tonight. Yeah, I know. This, to me, this is interesting as fuck. So I love this stuff. I eat it up. But I just want to say, too, like, think about somebody who calls himself the B666 and somebody associated with something around such deep mystical knowledge, the necessity of secrecy, right? When you drop that evil bomb, right, and things are evil and this and that, it's like it protects the secrets from those that would be tempted to foul them up with their own belief systems or their own dogmas or stigmas. You know, you have to be able to get past, the external, the exoteric, just even walking to the door, the threshold of the true mystery, So I'm just saying, like, you have to understand, like, the ego that someone projects, is something to keep those that aren't willing to go to the degree necessary to attain the mysteries from ever walking that path. I just want to put that out there. A note on the chief rules of practical conduct to be observed by those who accept the law of the Lema. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. There is no law beyond do what thou wilt. Blank, thou hast no right but to do thy will. Do that, and no other shall say nay. For pure will, unassuaged of purpose, delivered from the lust of result, in every way perfect. Love is a law, love under will. Every man and every woman is a star. Your duty to yourself. Find yourself to be the center of your own universe. I am the flame that burns in every heart of man and in the core of every star. 2. Explore the nature and powers of your own being. This includes everything which is or can be for you, and you must accept everything exactly as it is in itself, as one of the factors which go to make up your true self. The true self thus ultimately includes all things soever. Its discovery is initiation, the traveling inwards, and that's initiation. You're going in, as its nature is to move continually. It must be understood not as static, but as dynamic, not as a noun, but as verb. It's action, dude. Right? It's action. And when we go inward in that downward spiral of self, our consciousness projects outward, right? Upwardly. And that's the, Jupiter, right? Crucifying himself in an inverted manner, upside down. We invert it in the physical lower realm, so our consciousness can take it the other direction. 3, develop in due harmony and proportion every faculty which you possess. This is so much information. Okay. Hey, if you appreciate this and you get something from it, seriously, make sure to donate and give back to it to receive the benefits, or to send prayer and energy to receive the benefits. 3, develop in due harmony and proportion every faculty which you possess. Wisdom says, be strong, but exceed. Exceed. Be strong, O man. Lust. Enjoy all things of sense and rapture. Fear not that any god shall deny thee for this, saying, do what drives your heart. Do what drives your passion. Do what propels you forward, right? And don't have the fear of condemnation and judgment, because everything that's meant for you will come to you. Contemplate your own nature. 4. Consider every element thereof, both separately in relation to all the rest, as purpose of the totality of your being. 5. Find the formula of this purpose or true will in an expression as simple as possible. Learn to understand clearly how to best manipulate the energies which you control to obtain the results most favorable to it from its relations with the part of the universe which you do not yet control. 6. Extend the dominion of your consciousness and its control of all forces alien to it to the utmost. Do this by ever stronger and more skillful application of your faculties to the finer, clearer, fuller, and more accurate perception, the better understanding, and the more wisely ordered government of that external universe. 7. Never permit the thought or will of any other being to interfere with your own, and this is huge. Be constantly vigilant to resent and on the alert to resist with unvanquishable ardor and vehemence of passion unquenchable every attempt of any other being to influence you otherwise than by contributing new facts to your experience of the universe or by assisting you to reach a higher synthesis of truth by the mode of passionate fusion. 8. Do not repress or restrict any true instinct of your nature, but devote all in perfection to the sole service of your one true will. Be goodly, therefore. The word of sin is restriction. O man, refuse not thy wife if she will. O lover, if thou wilt depart. There is no bond that can unite the divided but love. All else is a curse. Accursed, be it to the aeons, hell. So with they all thou hast no right, but do thy will. Do that, and no other shall say nay. For pure will, unassuaged of purpose, delivered from the lust of result, in every way perfect. Ye shall gather goods and store of women and spices. Ye shall wear rich jewels. Ye shall exceed the nations of the earth in splendor and pride, but always in the love of me. And so shall ye come to my joy. 9. Rejoice. Remember, all ye, that existence is pure joy, that the sorrows are but as shadows. They pass and are done, but there is that which remains. But ye, O my people, rise up and awake. Let the rituals be rightly performed with joy and beauty, a feast for fire, and a feast for water, a feast for life, and greater feast for death. A feast every day in your hearts in the joy of my rapture, a feast every night unto new, and the pleasure of the uttermost delight. Aye, feast, rejoice. There is no dread hereafter. There is the disillusion and eternal ecstasy in the kisses of new. Now rejoice. Now come in our splendor and rapture. Come in our passionate peace, and write sweet words for the kings. Thrill with the joy of life and death. Ah, thy death shall be lovely. Whoso seeth it shall be glad. Thy death shall be the seal of the promise of our age-long love. Come, lift up thine heart and rejoice. Is a God to live in a dog? No, but the highest are of us. They shall rejoice, our chosen, who sorroweth not of us. Beauty and strength, leaping laughter and delicious languor, force and fire are of us. Your duty to the other individual, men and women. So, moving forward. Love is the law, love under will. Unite yourself passionately with every other form of consciousness, thus destroying the sense of separateness from the whole and creating a new baseline in the universe from which to measure it. And you know what? This is kind of people. We're taught to hold on to our individuality, and we can still maintain individuality, but by connecting to the collective, I'm telling you, there is far more benefit to tap into many more possibilities and energies. However you decide to tap into others, because that's what the life experience is all about. I talk about this all the time. Too many people, especially spiritual cats, they get their knowledge and they vamp. They're like, okay, I got my knowledge now, and I'm going to take it and be by myself with it. And there's nothing wrong with going inward and doing like the solo thing when it's the time for the solo thing. But you grow and expand to be able to add to the collective, to be able to bring love to others, to be able to bring passion to others. And this is also what I talk about, living in mediocrity and living in lack of passion, right? Do what you love. Do what you're passionate about. Never settle for stability and mediocrity. Transcend those things by chasing your dreams. Let the lust of your heart carry you into love. Don't hold back on the things that you truly desire and that you truly want. That's how you live a fulfilled life. And people all the time have given me shit. Because I blindly love, and my heart's always full of fire for everything I do. But it's because I want the true full experience of life. So when I make videos, I'm passionate about whatever I'm talking about, and I'm full of fire for whatever I'm talking about. When I love somebody, same way. I throw all caution to the wind, and I go in head fucking first. And if I get burnt, I get burnt. But I have the true experience of the experience as a result. Love is the law. Love under will. There is no reaching parts of myself that I had words for. Being polarized. Yeah, well, dude, I have so much shadow self to work on still, too. It's not funny, but it's just the fact that you're able to see that, that lets you know that, that lets you know that you're in a good place, right? Being able to recognize the shadow and being able to recognize that there are darker aspects that still need to be worked on. So, I mean, to me, you're exactly where you need to be always. Even if you feel like you're being led astray, you needed to be led somewhere in order to bring you back to the path you were supposed to be on. Either way. As brothers fight ye, if he be a king, thou canst not hurt him. To bring out satiently the differences between 2 points of view is useful to both in measuring the position of each in the whole. Combat stimulates the virile or creative energy, and, like love, of mind to an orgasm, which enables it to transcend rational fullness. And this is why you have to be open to alternative perspectives, opinions, and points of view. This is why you have to be open to healthy debate and people that believe differently than you. It's a stimulation of passion. Thank you. I'm glad you believe this is one of the best shows. Thank you. I've enjoyed doing it a lot. You just started shadow work and made a lot of progress. Yeah, dude. That's something I've really just been getting into this year myself, I didn't even really know much about shadow work until I had started dating a particular girl, and she just opened my world to a lot of things I didn't know. So big ups to her. 3, abstain from all interferences with other wills. But see, if I would have been cautious in my willingness to love, I wouldn't have even met her, ever stumbled across shadow work, or, I wouldn't have transformed. So it just goes to show, that didn't work out, but I took some jewels from the experience. Abstain from all interferences with other wills. Beware lest any force another, king against king. The love and war in the previous injunctions are of the nature of sport, where one respects and learns from the opponent, but never interferes with him outside the actual game. To seek to dominate or influence another is to seek to deform or destroy him, and he is a necessary part of one's own universe, that is, of oneself. And I think that speaks volumes, right? When we seek to dominate and destroy other people, we're only seeking to dominate, pervert, and warp and destroy our own self. And it shows how immature we are on the path, right? When we're doing those kind of things. Just to keep it all the way real. You know, we should be so far past all of that, it's not even funny. But for some reason, you know, we're not. You know, we still need our egos to be fed by saying, I can control or manipulate you. And this is what I'm saying. This is why it's so important to be illuminated, to realize your true sovereignty, your true kingship that you have. And then you'll understand that no one can influence you but you. Number 4, seek, if you so will, to enlighten another who needs arises. This may be done also always with the strict respect for the attitude of the good sportsman. When he is in distress, though failure to understand himself clearly, especially when he specifically demands help. For his darkness may hinder one's perception of his perfection. Yet also his darkness may serve as a warning or excite one's interest. It is also lawful when his ignorance had led him to interfere with one's will. All interference in any case is dangerous and demands the exercise of extreme skill and good judgment, fortified by experience. To influence another is to leave one's citadel unguarded, and to attempt to commonly end in losing one's own self-supremacy. It's saying, dude, if you're going to enlighten somebody and take them on the path, be sure they want to go on the fucking path. Don't destroy your own journey by trying to manipulate someone else's, you know? Understand, like, you can only do what you can do for a person, and you can only give what you can give to a person. Don't leave your tower unguarded to help build theirs. Okay? Number 5, worship all. Every man and every woman is a star. Mercy, left be off, damn them who pity. We have nothing with the outcast and the unfit. Let them die in their misery, for they feel not. Compassion is the vice of kings. Stamp down the wretched and the weak. This is the law of the strong. This is the law and the joy of the world. Think not, O king, upon that lie, that thou must die. Verily thou shalt not die, but live. Now let it be understood. If the body of the king dissolve, he shall remain in pure ecstasy forever. Nuit, hadit, ra, horror, karit. The sun, strength, and sight, light, these are for the servants of the star and the snake. Each being is exactly as you are, the soul of the center of a universe that is no or even assimilable to your own, the impersonal universe or nature of only abstract as common to all. The universe of another is therefore necessarily unknown to, unknowable by you, but it does induce currents of energy in yours by determining in part your reactions. Use men and women, therefore, with the absolute respect due to inviolable standards of measurement. Verify your own observations by comparison with similar judgments made by them, and studying the methods which determine their failure or success. Acquire for yourself the wit and skill required to cope with your own problems. Duty to mankind. This is gorgeous information. I'm glad you liked it. And this is, believe it or not, this is a challenging video for me to do because I already know how people will perceive a lot of this stuff. But I'm to the point of I'm in my not give a fuckness right now. It's like, this is what I'm on. This is what I'm into. This is what I'm studying. I'm not saying I'm into, I'm into the occult and all that. I've always been into that shit. If you watch me for years, I've studied every occult, Christian, every religion. I love them all. And I'm not going to apologize for who I am. I'm not going to apologize for what I'm into. And I'm not going to apologize for being illuminated either and seeking illumination. And neither should you. I love myself. I love who I am. And I love the way that I am. And I am a king, and I know this, and I believe you all are too, and I have respect for each and every one of you on that level. And I give the utmost of my energy to you whenever I come to you, because I want to present you with the pinnacle of what I'm discovering at that time, so you're learning with me. Your duty to mankind. Establish the law of Thelema as the sole basis of conduct. The general welfare of the race being necessary in many respects to your own. That well-being, like your own, principally a function of the intelligent and wise observance of the law of Thelema. It is of the very first importance to you that every individual should accept frankly that law and strictly govern himself in full accordance therewith. You may regard the establishment of the law of Thelema as an essential element of your true will, since whatever the ultimate nature of that will, the evident condition of putting it into execution is freedom from external interference. Freedom from external interference. That's why it's do what thou wilt is the whole of the law. It's your will be done, right? How you want to experience life, to chase your passions and desires. Governments often exhibit the most deplorable stupidity. However, enlightened may be the men who compose and constitute them, or the people whose destinies they direct. It is therefore incumbent on every man and woman to take proper steps to cause the revisions of all existing statutes on the basis of the law of Thelema, the law being a law of liberty. The aim of the legislation must be to secure the amplest freedom for each individual in the state, eschewing the presumptuous assumption that any given positive ideal is worthy to be obtained. So, all you motherfuckers that say that I'm a piece of shit because I'm anti-government, fuck y'all. The law states that we are supposed to be pushing towards liberty. We are supposed to be pushing towards freedom and progression in each and every aspect of our life, because that is my fucking desire, my fucking will, and it's the people that watch this channel's fucking desire and will too, quite frankly. So if you're not down with our conspiracies, then you just don't understand that we're trying to shape a world in which we actually want to live in and be a part of, is the basis of that. So the word of sin is restriction. The essence of crime is that it restricts the freedom of the individual outraged. Thus, murder restricts his right to live, robbery his right to enjoy the fruits of his labor, coining his right to guarantee of the state that he shall barter in security, etc. It is then common duty to prevent crime by segregating the criminal, and by the threat of reprisals, also to teach the criminal that his acts being analyzed are contrary to his own true will, because when you hurt another, you hurt yourself. This may be accomplished by taking from him the right which he has denied to others, as by outlawing the thief, so that he feels constant anxiety for the safety of his own possessions, removed from the ward of the state. The rule is quite simple. He who violated any right declares magically that it does not exist. Therefore, it is no longer does so for him. Ooh, damn. Think about that. Right? Taking away the right that you deny others. This is why I don't feel that sacrifice is okay. Right? Because you can't take away, infringe on somebody's free will to live and exist. Right? You yourself are denied that free will to exist and live when you take it away from another person. That's a fact, right? Yeah. Hey, I'm glad some people are filming this one. You know, like honestly, I've been dying to do this show, honestly. And I've experienced this. I've not always been an upstanding person, and I have experienced this play out in my life to where I've denied others something and it be denied in my own life as like a karmic lesson, to show me that I was fucking up in something I was doing or the way I was treating other people. So I wholly agree with this. Crime being a direct spiritual violation of the law of Thelema, it should not be tolerated in the community. Those who possess the instinct should be segregated in a settlement to build up a state of their own, so to learn the necessity of themselves imposing and maintaining rules of justice. All artificial crime should be abolished. When fantastic restrictions disappear, the greater freedom of the individual will itself teach him to avoid acts which really restrict natural rights. Thus, real crime will diminish dramatically. And that's just what I was saying, right? It teaches you yourself. When you lose it yourself, then you see. You're like, fuck, I shouldn't have did that. You know? I fucked myself by fucking another person. The administration of the law should be simplified by training men of uprightness and discretion whose will is to fulfill the function of the community to decide all complaints by the abstract principle of the law of Thelema and the award judgment on the basis of the actual restriction caused by the offense. The ultimate aim is thus to reintegrate conscience on true scientific principles as the warden of conduct, the monitor of the people, and the guarantee of the governors. Yeah, man, this was needed for me too. This is needed for me too. I'm glad you're feeling it. Honestly, I really am. I'm happy to see some positive feedback. It just shows to me how far we progressed as a whole. And I will be doing a part 2 on this. That's a fact. There's so much in this. I want to cover it all. We're going to keep going though. I'm going to try to rock this one out for a little bit. Your duty to all other beings and things. Apply the law of Thelema to all problems of fitness, use, and development. It's a violation of the law of Thelema to abuse natural qualities of any animal or object by diverting it from its proper function, as determined by consideration of its history and structure. Thus, to train children to perform mental operations or to practice tasks for which they are unfitted is a crime against nature. So they're right there for all you guys saying the pedo shit. Boom. In your motherfucking face, right there in the law. Right? And this is the chapter 23 guidebook to the OTO. Just saying. Alright? This is how you become initiated. And it's anti that shit. Similarly, to build houses of rotten material, to adulterate food, to destroy forests, etc., etc., is to defend. So adultery, the same thing. You know, it's got to be agreed upon. If you and your woman want to be swingers, that's cool. That's your will to do so. But if one does not and the other does, then that is a law against them. The law of Thelema is to be applied unflinchingly to decide every question of conduct. The inherent fitness of any things that may be proposed should be used as sole criterion. Apparent and sometimes even real conflict between interests will frequently arise. Such cases are to be decided by the general value of the contending parties in the scale of nature. Thus a tree has a right to its life, but a man being more than a tree, he may cut it down for fuel or shelter when need arises. Even so, let him remember that the law never fails to avenge infractions. As when wanton deforestation has ruined a climate or a soil, as for the importation of rabbits for a cheap supply of food has created a plague. Observe the violation of the law of Thelema produces cumulative ills. The drain of the agricultural population to big cities, due chiefly to persuading them to abandon their natural ideals, has not only made the country less tolerable to the peasant, but debauched the town. And the error tends to increase geometrical progression until a remedy has become almost inconceivable and the whole structure of society is threatened with ruin. The wise application based on observation and experience of the law of Thelema is to work in conscious harmony with evolution. Experiments in creation involving variation from existing types are lawful and necessary. Their value is to be judged by their fertility as bearing witness to their harmony with the course of nature towards perfection. We'll do the temple guidelines, and I do want to invite people to the Best Damn Podcast Discord. After this, I'll do a few. It's like 2-3 cards. I'll pull just a quick question or whatever for tarot readings for those who want to do that, though. We're going to go through the temple guidelines first, though. All right, temple guidelines. These suggestions for the conduct of a temple are based on experience. Of course, each person who is the head of a temple has his or her own ideas about behavior while in the precincts, but some are inexperienced and perhaps these ideas may help set up one's own system. To begin with, the OTO Manifesto, it is stated that we are a serious and secret occult order. So let us keep that in mind. We need to deal with a very few who are disruptive, unthinking of the security and peace of others, and who offend others without a care. What is a temple? It is anywhere the Gnostic Catholic Mass is being performed, even if outdoors or in a private home or garage. So this is a temple, guys. Just saying. I tell you guys this is my church. I'm not lying. It is anywhere that an OTO initiation is taking place, like right now. It could be a place for the officers of various grades and having serious meeting. If that is what they desire, it could be the rites of Eleusis and the temple is declared. It could be anywhere that members of the OTO declare to be a temple. There is also many temples of various other faiths, religions, brotherhoods, etc., and this should be respected as the same. You would want your own temple to be respected, so you respect this temple, and that's why I stated at the very beginning, you will respect every other person. You agree by coming into the Discord, by coming into my chats, by watching my videos, period. You agree to our temple guidelines, which are we respect one another, mutual respect and love for each other, no matter our thoughts, beliefs, religious system, skin color, sexual orientation. We have mutual respect and love for each other, period. That's our rule. All right. Number 1, public enemies of the country of any brother shall be treated as such while in the field, and slain or captured as the officer of the brother may command. But within the precincts of the lodge, all such divisions are to be forgotten absolutely. As the children of one Father, the enemies of the hour before and the hour after are to dwell in peace, amity, and fraternity, which I love that. It's saying any outsider comes in to fuck with us, we don't play around. We protect our own. But if we have a dispute within our own, we let it go and we continue in the law of love. We protect our family, and we keep our family. 2, if a person is late to a temple gathering, no matter what the reason, his late arrival is unthinking of the comfort and cares of others who have arrived on time. Also, if a ceremony is in process, the late arrival disrupts the whole magical mood of that which has been built up with the work and concentration on the part of its participants and their helpers. It is perfectly all right to declare your temple closed to latecomers. The late one should be prepared to retreat, even if his lateness was due to traffic, an accident, or other difficulties. His bad luck should not be imposed on others. And how about that? Saying your lateness is a sign of bad luck and disrespect to the people who show up on time. I think we can let it slide, The participants in ceremony should never threaten another's life or well-being at any time. For instance, the black guard does not draw his sword for any other reason than for the ceremony itself. Swords and daggers are only used where indicated and never at some odd moment, nor should initiators indulge in any action which might hurt anyone else. This means good care must be taken of everyone's well-being and health. 4, each person can be treated with respect, keeping always in mind, as the Lemites, we are brothers and sisters, and we honor another person's opinion even if we do not agree. 5, those who are stoned or drunk and unable to control the lower animal passions and the wild actions that may arise because of the condition can be barred by the ceremony according to the will of the temple master or mistress. It is better if each person is fully conscious of what is going on and can remember the events which are for his own growth spiritually. Also, if requested by the temple guardians and participants, smoking should stop as it might interfere with the incense, and the mood of the ceremony can be very disruptive in various situations. 6, theft should be treated seriously, as this the means of interference in the will of another or the temple as a whole. It's best if the victim of theft should left to report it, as if he does not so, is contributing to future events of the same sort. 7, any person causing breakage or damage to the temple equipment or housing materials is responsible for the replacement, no matter the cost. 8, reverence is suggested for any ceremony so that you and others can benefit to the utmost by what is going on. And I think that's huge, right? Whenever you see spiritual teachings taking place, having reverence for the fucking process that's going on right now. It's like people come in, they're so goddamn disrespectful because they don't agree and stuff. Like, automatically, that's got to be blocked out because, you gotta have respect for what's being taught, for what people believe, how they feel. Like, respect is everything. 9, if a temple is also used by others in the order that it's best to leave the place clean after your event, be considerate. cleansing. Those conduct a ceremony will make it more effective to bring the power of the whole ceremony through to themselves and the observers if they will memorize their parts. Talk or chatter, whisper, laugh, or exclaim during the ceremony would be ruination of the effect of the ceremony for yourself or for others. Social life can be confined to before and after the ceremony. Your silence as an observer will allow the higher life to grow within you. Temple work benefits you and others and will benefit each one even more if there is anything a person can do to help out. It's a good idea to ask beforehand if there is some contribution you can make. The aids in building of the group mind draws us closer together. All of us are really striving for one goal, the knowledge of the divine and presence of this force among all members in a temple. And I'm going to leave it there, I believe. Yeah, we've been going about 2 hours. I'm going to leave it there. I am going to ask that everybody who is watching this, please hit the thumbs up, the like for me, no matter where you're watching. Please share the link, spread it far and wide so people can see what we're doing over here. Comment, make sure to comment. I would love to hear your feedback, what you think about all of this. Subscribe and click the bell so you get notified. And remember, in order to receive the energy, the information, the knowledge, you have to reciprocate. So give back in some way, whether it's donation, money, or it's, positive intent and energetic, right? You have to give back to receive the full benefit. So do something, positive, something to give back. Those who want to join me over on Discord, I will pull a 2 or 3 card tarot reading for all of those who are interested. I'm going to go ahead and knock it off of the public platforms, though, because I'm not going to record your personal readings for everybody to see. We will pick up part 2 probably tomorrow, and we'll start with the symbolic journey, and we'll go from there. I've got other documents and stuff I want to cover, many other documents, the Keys of Solomon, and just all types of cool stuff. So, thank you guys so much for watching.